Hello, my name is Rachel. I've had this shop for 3 years. It's called Vinsportage, and it started in 2017 when I sold things online from charity shops, and then it's just grown into a shop.
In recent years, the second-hand vintage clothing market has surged in popularity. What was once considered a niche hobby has transformed into a global movement. In fact, the second-hand clothing market is now valued at over $200 billion, and it's projected to grow to $350 billion by 2027. Today, 1 in 3 customers are buying second-hand clothing, with the average person buying about 5 items of second-hand clothing each year. This change isn't just about fashion, it's about sustainability. The fashion industry is one of the world's largest polluters, and buying vintage reduces waste, giving garments a second life while lowering the demand for fast fashion.
So the benefits to the environment, the big one being you're saving an item going to landfill. So if you went to a charity shop and you bought an item, if that item hadn't been bought, then the likelihood of it getting thrown away and being put into landfill is quite high, so you're keeping an item of clothing in circulation. So the main benefits from shopping vintage is if you buy something second-hand, you're doing your little bit to help the environment. Another benefit is the items are a lot cheaper. So say a pair of Levi jeans are £100 new, they are probably around £35 second-hand, so you're saving some money. Another big one is you'll probably never walk down the street and see someone wearing the same item as you. So every item is unique and there's not lots and lots of the same item. Okay, so vintage clothing, I've found that the older clothing is made to last. So the materials are better, lots of details. They spent a lot of time on all the small parts like the details, the embroidery, the tags, so the item will last longer than a new item would.
When you buy second-hand, you're not just getting a unique item, you're reducing the environmental impact. It takes around 2,700 litres of water to make a single cotton t-shirt. And much of that water can be avoided by shopping vintage or reusing clothes.
So my favourite item, I found lots of amazing items over the years, but I would say the first item that I found to really start like the passion of finding vintage items was this. I found this in a charity shop back in 2017, before I'd really started reselling clothes. It's a Nike Challenge Court polo shirt. And I didn't know anything about this at the time, and I don't think Google Lens really was a thing, so I couldn't take a picture and have a little look. So I bought it. I think I paid probably £3.50, and then I went back, did some Googling and found out that it's called Nike Challenge Court, and it's what people used to wear to play tennis. Andre Agassi wore it, and all the items are like really bright, really colourful, like all the details are really good, like the zips, the tags are quite cool. But yeah, that's kind of what started this whole thing off, is finding this. Okay, so this is quite a crazy story, probably the craziest story that I've had, and I still can't really believe it, even though it happened. So I was wearing this sweatshirt. It's Reebok Racing Club. So I think it was in the 90s, there was Reebok had lots of runners, and they were part of a Reebok racing club. And they used to post these sweatshirts out to the runners. And basically, I was wearing this sweatshirt on a trip back here from the south. So I was driving, I think I was on hour 5 of my journey, and I was at a petrol station, and a guy came up to me and was like, were you in the racing club? And I was like, huh? And I was like, oh no. And he was like, well, your parents in the racing club? And I said, no, I just buy and sell vintage clothing. And it turns out he was the manager of that racing club back in the 90s, and he posted these sweatshirts from his house to all the athletes that were in the racing club, and I just happened to bump into him.
Platforms like Depop, eBay and Vinted allowed anyone with a smartphone to sell their wardrobe straight from their living rooms. With a rising demand for affordable and sustainable fashion, selling your old clothes became more than just a way to declutter. For many, this shift wasn't just about saving money, it was about finding a new hustle, a new hobby. Suddenly, vintage reselling became an accessible side business. For some, it grew into a full-time job.
Hi, my name's Billy, I'm 20 years old, and 5 years ago when COVID hit, my reselling business blew up on platforms such as Depop and Vinted. This is because of the demand of people like wanting to buy second-hand clothes and everyone being online, obviously because we weren't allowed outside our houses, and I feel like it is just blown up from there and it's slowly becoming my full-time job. Right, well, to start with, you've got to find the clothes, which I personally, my favourite is going to kilo sales, which you can find advertised on like social media like Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok sometimes. Then you can just find the location, go, and then basically it's just a big room with loads of racks just full of clothes. You get given a bag, you just sift through all the clothes. It's like a massive charity shop. You put the clothes in the bag and then you weigh it at the end. A kilo would cost about £20 to £25 depending on which one you go to. Each item personally goes for like different prices. Like you can look through like Nike and Adidas, they're obvious ones, like they'll always sell really, like because they're big brands. More unique items, they might sell for a bit more. But yeah, it genuinely depends on what items you're able to collect.
But why did vintage thrive even as fast fashion continued its rapid rise? Brands like Shein have built empires on mass-produced, cheaply made clothing. Yet for many, this has led to growing dissatisfaction with the environmental impact and the exploitation of cheap labour behind these trends.
Okay, so since I started in 2017, I think there's always been a rise in vintage second-hand clothing. I think it's become easier, so with things like Depop and Vinted, it's been a lot easier for people to search online and find the item that they want. So I think it's always going to be increasing, as well as its popularity. So it's quite popular now to shop secondhand and buy vintage items. It's probably because of social media is a big one, I think. So lots of people are promoting secondhand fashion. You've got big apps like Depop, ASOS Marketplace back in the day, and Vinted. So a lot of people are using these apps and finding these items a lot cheaper than new items, and I think that's really helped in making it a more popular thing to do. Also, people are wanting to do their small bit to help the environment, and I think it's been quite a big thing over the last few years of what you can do to help.
The rise of vintage isn't just a trend, it's a movement, a new way of thinking about fashion, a way to balance style with sustainability and to reclaim something that's been lost in the pursuit of cheap and endless consumption. The future of fashion is vintage, and it's here to stay.